Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name's Nick, and with me is
It's your boy Bert.
Ghost Hunting Bert.
We're doggone. Nick's haunted over here, folks. He's still haunted. I check every week. He's always haunted. I don't know what to tell you.
I told you from the get-go, I got problems.
There's definitely some problems being had over here. Okay.
Yeah, they're other people's problems, though. They're not mine. I like it.
That's doggone right. Listen, he's always wanted to be a little demon.
Yeah, that's right.
If you go back to a podcast day number 1, he wanted to be a doggone demon.
Yeah, and I am sticking to it. There's, you've probably seen him before because they advertise all over like Facebook and stuff like that. It's this Japanese t-shirt company, and they have like a picture of an animal and then a weird saying that you're not sure if they intended or not.
Yeah.
I saw one today, which was like, I think it was a goose. And it says, I think I'll intentionally cause problems today. I need that.
That's about right. Listen, that is 100% true, especially where you're at, Nick. You guys got them doggone demon gooses.
The cobra chickens, people call them.
Doggone cobra chicken. That's right.
Well, actually, most people don't call them that, but some people who are new to the country from, like, I think it was Egypt, saw them and they were like, oh, I'd have these cobra chickens because they come hissing at you.
Doggone cobra chicken. You know, speaking of nostalgia, guess what I found, Nick?
What did you find? Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
The 90s.
The 90s edition of Mad Magazine. I've been going through here. You know, and then I watched a documentary on Mad, the actual comics. Do you know what year they started, Nick?
Man, I think it's going to be further back than I guess, but I'm going to guess 70s.
I think it was 1957.
Wow. I bet it was real dry back then.
Come to find out, they were comics for years.
Right.
Now I'm going to look it up. I think it was 1957. But they started out as a comic, and they were spoofing other comics, which may shock people. Other comics did not like that.
Huh.
Like one of the stories they had was the Super Duper Man.
Oh, okay.
And of course, you know, DC wasn't necessarily a big fan of that.
I tried to think back to it because, like, if you think about the 50s, they're not well known for comedy, I wouldn't say.
No.
Like, a lot of comedy hasn't aged well. So I'm wondering what it was like back then.
Man, I'm way off. 1952.
Ooh, yeah.
But yeah, so they apparently, I didn't know this either. There's a code of conduct with comics.
Oh, I think I might have heard of this.
Yeah. And since there was such a bad stigmatism to them, they left comics completely and then started the magazine.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. Was Alfred E. Newman ever a person? Or
that's the kid, right?
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, in the documentary, they mentioned the person.
Yeah.
That person was actually used. It was a spoof again.
Oh. When
they was selling products back then, like let's say they was selling bib overhauls or
like
X-ray barrels. Yeah, X-ray specs.
Right.
That was the face they used on everything.
Oh, really? So he was just a generic creation.
He was an everyday Joe.
Oh.
And that's how they did it. So they thought it was so funny that every ad they would look at had that guy's face, and they're like, we should make that the face of our magazine.
Oh, you know what? Sort of like riff off that, and we can come back to this, of course. But CPR dolls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they all have the same face, and it's actually a real person's face.
Yes.
It was an unknown lady that drowned in the Seine, or whatever that river's called, in France.
Yeah.
And they modeled it from then till now. And this was hundreds of years ago, I think.
Yep. Isn't it interesting?
That is interesting.
It makes me sit back and wonder sometimes, like, okay, well, what is this one thing that's almost like an homage to something else?
Right.
that I don't even know what it is. You know
yeah, I there's probably a lot of that kind of stuff.
I'm sure there's a ton of it. There'd have to be.
Right. Right. Well, let's look at their competitor. You remember who their main competitor was?
No, I don't.
Cracked magazine.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about that magazine till you just said it.
Yeah, and they had a guy that was kind of similar to Alfred E. Newman. I can't think of his name, so he wasn't as good.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that magazine. I wonder what happened to that magazine.
I don't know. Now, I can't remember if it was the 90s where they started to get into TV too. And remember, there was Mad TV.
Yeah.
And they also did like Cracked TV or something like that, but it wasn't any good. Mad TV was good.
The first Cracked magazine came out in 1958.
So they were just 6 years on the heels of Mad magazine.
Yes.
Clearly, they were cloning Mad.
The original people that started the Mad magazine, they left. And the one guy stayed there. The reason there was never an advertiser in Mad magazine for the most part was they did not want to have anyone tell them how to do their magazine.
Oh, really?
Yep. Last edition of Cracked magazine was in 2007.
Oh, so that's been a while now.
Yeah.
But Mad's still going, right?
Mad is still going. I literally just bought that episode.
Oh.
Special collector's edition of Mad magazine.
Oh, okay. Now Mad TV's not still going though, right?
No, Mad television show's been off for a while.
Did you watch that?
I did. Mad TV.
Yeah. At work, whenever like someone does something we don't like, because there's like other teams and sometimes they do something we don't like, we all sing like as a group, lowered expectations.
Lower expectations. Man, there were so many good episodes on that show.
Stuart. Actually, the best thing to come out of Mad TV was it kickstarted the career of someone who's very, very famous now. Jordan Peele.
Oh, was he on there?
He was. That was his breakout role. And he has gone from being like a master of comedy to he's like one of the most respected people in my favorite field, the horror community now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's huge in the horror genre.
I picked up a book that he edited. It was an anthology of Black writers doing horror to read, because we've had horrible storms for just months now here. So I went and picked up a book and I started reading that. He edited and chose these, and these are real bangers too. They're real good stories. He knows his stuff, but he's the best thing to come out of Mad TV, in my opinion.
I didn't even know he came from there. What was his role on Mad TV?
Well, they were it was just a variety show like Saturday Night Live. So he
didn't have like a reoccurring theme.
He might have. I don't really remember, to be honest. I just remember him being on it. I don't know if he had like an iconic character.
The two big things for me was always that show,
right? And
In Living Color was my two.
Oh, yeah. Favorite. I didn't see a lot of that. That was earlier, wasn't it? Than Mad TV?
I think they're around the same time frame. I think.
Okay.
Because I used to watch In Living Color all the time. In Living Color. Homie, don't play that game. The final episode of In Living Color was in 1994.
Right.
Mad TV.
I figured that's about when Mad TV was starting.
First episode was 1995.
Yeah, so one ended, the other one started. So In Living Color might have been too early for me to be paying late night attention to. I
used to love In Living Color. Yeah. I used to love Homie the Clown. Homie, don't play that game, man.
Who was on that? Was that like were the Wayans in that? Or?
The Wayans brothers, yeah.
That's what I thought. And Jim Carrey, for some reason, he was in it, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Jim Carrey. I think that was really Jim Carrey's kind of roll out into the whole comedy.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Now, I keep bringing, like, I'm doing deep studies on horror all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Carrey, my favorite role that he's done was a horror movie. The number, what was it? The number 7?
Yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah, man, that's a totally different role for him, and he did it so well.
You know, Jim Carrey, sometimes I wonder if the Illuminati got him.
Oh, yeah?
But he's an interesting guy.
This is in our wheelhouse. This is in our wheelhouse. So
it really is.
Lay it on me. Tell me this story.
You know, he used to do all these comedies, and then he changed up his entire role.
Right.
And how he looks at things. And then he's now very artsy. He's very opinionated on things. But he's still a little weird.
Yeah, I don't think you can fully recover from weird. I hope not, anyway.
You know what one of my favorite sketches from Mad TV was?
What?
And I do it literally all the time because I got a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Now, Stuart, you get down here, Stuart.
Look what I can do.
Look what I can do. That's
so funny.
That's literally my 4-year-old. That's Lainey. Look at, hey, Dad, look what I can do. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. So I'm going to tread lightly on this. And one of the things I always laughed at, which you cannot do that, and it would not play today, is Mrs. Swan. I used to laugh so hard. I was young. I didn't understand how wrong that was, but you know what? Against my better nature, I'd probably laugh if I saw that again.
Oh, I would.
But
100% I would.
Yeah. But it's not right. And I'm telling everyone right now, it's not right. But sometimes you can't help yourself.
But, you know, I put it in the same line as what I do South Park.
Right.
Like, you probably shouldn't laugh at South Park either.
Yeah. Probably not 90% of South Park you shouldn't laugh at.
But I do, because I find it kind of funny.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I always said that you can get away with saying real terrible stuff as long as you make that a part of what you do from the get-go.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Because we had that, and who I used to say it as an example was Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Like, he was horrible all the time, and everyone gave him a pass on it all the time. Until recently, I'm sure you've heard the news and watched the documentaries. He was doing some pretty awful stuff to women.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like famous ones too.
He did?
Yeah. Like pretty vile stuff. There's a whole documentary of it. In fact, he was married to an actress, and apparently he treated her awfully in front of all kinds of people.
Is that the one he took to the award show that wore like the see-through clothing and stuff?
I don't know about that. She was famous in her own right.
Yeah, but like that's, I think, what, like when people talk about Marilyn Manson and women that he's been with, like that's always, I can't remember what her name is, but she was like the equivalent of Kanye and what's her face?
That's
Bianca.
what I was thinking of when you saw that.
Yeah, that's literally, and it makes me wonder sometimes where Ye's thought process is.
Well, he's just off the rocker. You saw that he removed everything from his store except a swastika t-shirt.
Right.
That
man is
Evan
crazy.
Rachel Wood is who it was, who was a huge actress for quite some time.
No clue who that is.
But
I couldn't tell you who the person I'm talking about is either, to be fair.
Yeah. No, but I watched the documentary on that. It was not good. So he got away with a lot more than he ever should have. And it's because that was part of his persona all along.
Remember that rumor where they said he was the kid from Wonder Years?
Yeah. Yeah. He started a lot of those rumors himself.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it was all promotion. Like he had ones about his ribs being removed so he could, I won't say what, but use your imagination.
Handle business, yeah.
Yeah. Like, and he got away with a lot of stuff, but then every once in a while you'd catch him on something like Bowling for Columbine.
Yeah.
And he'd sound really intelligent. Now I know a couple people who met him in real life, and he was a pure a-hole to him, and they were huge fans of his. Yeah.
I feel like I've always, and I think you and I have talked about this, never meet a celebrity that you look up to, because it's only going to go downhill.
Yeah. It's better to have them on those pedestals and never find out any different, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's how I prefer it.
I'm a very weird guy. Like if I ran into a celebrity that I watched, I don't think I would care. I just don't think I would care.
I've had 2 main celebrity experiences, 2.5. And I'm not going to go over them again because I told before I had Demi Moore yell at me and scream at me.
Yeah.
Pretty bad experience. I played pool with her husband at the time, Bruce Willis, which it's a shame that he's going through some rough stuff.
He's going through it, man.
But I count that one experience, and the other experience, and I'll love this guy till the day I die, Anthony Anderson. You know him?
Anthony Anderson.
Yeah, he used to play a lot of like bumbling criminal roles. Like, do you remember that movie Romeo Must Die?
Yes.
Remember the sort of fat guy who worked for the father in that? And he was always chasing Jet Li.
Oh, I think so.
Right, funny fat black guy.
Man, I should know this.
Well, look back on it. He did a bunch of other stuff as well. And he was actually on Law and Order for quite a bit now, too. He's slimmed up. He's like really good. But that guy was the nicest person I've ever met. He saw us like when we were kids in Toronto watching them film a movie. And he came across the road, said, "Hey, you ever been on a set before?" Mm-hmm. And he invited us over and was introducing us to everyone. And of course, everyone was like, totally uninterested in us being there, but he was so excited to show us the process and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I knew who he was because I loved Jet Li movies and I'd seen him in that. I was trying to be cool about it. And then he was like, "Do you want an autograph?" And I'm like, "I haven't got anything to write on or a pen." And he's like, he gets a receipt from this guy working with the camera and he gets a pen from another guy and he gets his autograph on there and he gets Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos. He gets his autograph. There was another guy there that just was like, wouldn't even talk to us and left. But that guy, awesome.
You know who I'd love to meet?
Who?
Shaq.
You know what? He seems like he'd be a fun guy to talk to.
He is one of the nicest guys. And, you know, he basically talks about when he was younger, he was maybe not the best of people. Right. And he talks about how he tries to change who he is now. And he understands that everyone has a value.
That's a really nice lesson. I'm glad to hear that. He does seem like he's really nice.
There was this kid. I watched his video probably 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
He runs up to him and like grabs a hold of his leg and the security guards start coming in and pulling the kid away. And Shaq kind of looks down to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the security guards got him all the way back to his dad. His dad was recording the interaction.
Right.
And then Shaq goes like this to come over.
Mm.
And then the kid comes over and he turns around and he says, "Let's take a proper picture." And then he arranges the kid so he could take a proper picture.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm like, you know, like if more celebrities was like that, you know,
mm-hmm.
that'd be idealistic, but
yeah. See, we love nice celebrities.
We like nice ones. Yeah. If we were celebrities, Malone, Nick, I feel like we'd be pretty nice.
You know what? I think we would too. And soon we'll find out, I'm sure.
We're going to find out, Nick. Listen.
Yeah. We're just going to be nice to everyone.
As soon as YouTube lets us out of jail.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if we get an invite to the Breakfast Club, which is the show that is hosted by Charlemagne, I'm going to go on there and I'm going to attack that guy.
No, just kidding. Okay. Listen, hey, that's Nick. That's Nick, folks.
No, actually, I retract that. I don't want to get in any legal trouble. No.
I don't see us getting invited anyway, Nick.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. We're not cool enough for that. Even if we got famous, we wouldn't be that cool.
No.
But even though we've covered all our celebrity stuff that we like to talk about, we've made people wait long enough. I got huge breaking news.
Oh, heard it here first, folks. Breaking news.
You know what? A lot of people are going to hear it here first because this is only like 1 or 2 days old. I think you were surprised when I told you about this.
Oh, is this what you told me about this weekend?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, for the record, this new format, I could have read up on this.
Yep.
But I still didn't because I want to be as excited as everyone hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, this is some of the biggest news since I've been alive, really.
That's big news.
Because it's not very often we talk about centuries old mysteries that we just assume are going to be mysteries forever, like Oak Island. I don't think we'll ever hear the end of that.
I think we will.
You think so?
Yeah, because they came out with new stuff this year.
Yeah, but it's always like, oh, we found a copper sprocket or something like that. Let's spend 15 episodes on that.
Yeah, but they're draining that thing now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this is the year that we learn the answers to stuff.
Listen. Could be.
Yeah.
This could be the year.
Did you ever think that you would find out definitively who Jack the Ripper is?
No, but I have a theory on who I think it all. I've always had a theory.
All right. Who do you think it is?
Here's the thing. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was the doctor, the surgeon. That's who I always thought it was.
You know, they said that because of the precision.
The perfectly placed cuts.
Right. But you know what? I'm going to give this out in pieces. Since you mentioned a guy who is a surgeon, do you know what this guy's, the Jack the Ripper's actual job was?
Like the real Jack the Ripper?
Yep.
No.
Because we know a lot about him now.
Surgeon guy, but
no, it's not a surgeon.
But it's not him. It's not that guy.
No.
I don't even care about this story anymore, Nick. I was wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you will though.
Okay.
Because we actually this fills in a lot. So this guy was a hairdresser, a barber.
Didn't we talk about the barber? First off, how do they know? How do they know this is who Jack the Ripper is?
Well, you know what? Maybe I should just go through the story front to back so you'll get an idea of how they know.
Okay.
So basically, they have discovered the true identity of Jack the Ripper with as near to 100% certainty as you can get. And they did it because the police had I know the dimensions of it are not important, but one of the victims had a 9-foot long shawl, 2.5 feet wide, 9-foot long shawl. And what happens when you tussle with something like that is you get a lot of your DNA, your blood on it. So the police had that on file as evidence.
The shawl? With the blood stuff?
Yep. It had 2 bloods on it. But they never really bothered to do anything with it because way back then, there wasn't forensics or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of forgotten. It wasn't even being treated as evidence. Like it was sort of lost away in their basement. And there was a lot of degradation on it. So even once people become aware of it, we had to wait till really modern times.
Sure.
Like just last year to be able to get a proper reading because it was degraded. So they found this guy's blood on it, who had no other association with this person. And it was a guy by the name of Aaron Kosminski.
I don't think I've ever heard this name before.
Right. Now, see, he was in the very first stages, one of the suspects, but they forgot to record his first name. So he got confused with another guy that had a very similar name, and they completely forgot to interview this guy ever again. Now, if they had, because we do have record, like once we found out who this guy was, we were able to trace back what else he was doing.
Sure.
So he was a Polish barber, hairdresser. And which makes me think of Sweeney Todd, that barber that was cutting people up. You remember that? Well, he was a barber, hairdresser. He was in the area at the time they knew, and he was actually roundabout where every single one of these happened in the same time frame. So they knew all of that. If they hadn't mixed up his name in their paperwork, they probably would have realized it was Jack the Ripper, because when Jack the Ripper stopped killing people, was the same time that Aaron Kosminski went into an insane asylum for chasing his sister with a knife and trying to cut her up.
Well, there's your sign,
So that's a good sign. So basically they talked to the police, and the police were like, yeah, we really got no interest in solving this. We've got a lot of modern stuff that we need to worry about on the go here. So they just held on to it. And then the guy's like, look, if you're not going to do anything with this, you haven't even got an open case, sell it to me.
Yeah.
So the guy bought it last year. The person who did, we should actually give him credit as well. He is a historian and a true crime sleuth, probably like a lot of our listeners. And his name was Russell Edwards.
Oh, Russell. Good job, Russell.
Edwards. Yeah, good job, Russell. And it was identified a 100% DNA match to locate the real identity of serial killer Jack the Ripper.
Here's what I can't figure out. So clearly the DNA.
Right.
The DNA is on that shawl.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd they get the DNA from the guy?
The comparison?
Yeah.
Well, they had a lot of that for whatever reason on record from his family and also from the insane asylum. They had kept different articles. So apparently they were able to do that. They were also able to use the DNA to match familial DNA, which was also a match with his existing relatives.
That's why you don't do 23andMe, folks.
Right. One of which is actually someone who still has some items from the victims.
Oh, wow.
So the interesting thing on top of that as well is this isn't like, this guy is super well documented. They actually have all kinds of photos and stuff of him, and they were able to reconstruct a photo of exactly what Jack the Ripper looked like. He was a 23-year-old barber, and I'm going to unveil the face to you right now. And you're going to be one of the early people to see the face of Jack the Ripper.
That's Jack the Ripper?
That's Jack the Ripper. Isn't that a little disappointing in some ways?
I'm a little disappointed, if we're being completely honest. I was hoping to see someone like a Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, right?
That's what I was assuming.
The odd thing too is like, all the cuts that they said, oh, it must have been a surgeon and stuff like that. Back in then, he was doing a lot of straight razor work. And that's a good way to be very precise, because you cannot make a mistake with a straight razor.
Well, not only that, but back then, what was barbers known for?
Razors and haircuts, I guess. But
oh no, you don't know this.
Maybe not.
What's iconic outside of barbershops?
I really don't know.
The pole thing that spins, right?
Yeah.
What two colors is the spinning?
That. Isn't it like red and blue and white or something?
Red and white. Where do you think that came from?
Where?
They used to do surgeries.
You are kidding me.
So they would put the bloody towels out on the white things, and that's where the red and white comes from.
Are you messing with me right now?
Dead serious. Yeah, that's what they were known for.
Blew my mind.
I'm surprised you didn't know this.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, barbers.
That adds a lot of layer to this then.
Yeah, that's why I was following along. I thought you knew this.
No, not at all.
Barbers, surgeons. Yeah. Barber surgeons were common medical practitioners in Europe during the Middle Ages who combined barbering and surgery.
Wow. That makes all the difference in the world then.
Yeah, a lot of barbers. He
was probably cross-trained then.
Yeah. A lot of barbers were also into dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
So they would like pull teeth and stuff like that also.
Really?
But yeah, the red and white comes from the iconic red and white pole is back in the old days. They used to put their bloody towels out on those poles, and it would, when the wind would blow, it'd make that circular. So that's why they always kept that red and white out there.
Dude, that is wild.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, I think we're going through the same thing that probably Russell went through, in that once you find the guy and you work backwards from there.
Yeah.
Everything makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is something that we can lay to bed. Now, I saw this on TikTok from this guy who was saying, and I had to research this afterwards because I was like,
there's no way this is true.
There's no way this is true.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and he started off saying, I can't believe what times we're living in where they just unveiled the true identity of Jack the Ripper and no one's talking about it. And last year, they exposed that there's evidence that aliens are on this earth. And I haven't looked into his second claim, but since his first one was right, now I'm kind of wondering what this second thing he was talking about is.
It's got to be true, Nick.
Right.
Can't make one true claim and one false one. That's just impossible.
That's real easy to do, but it didn't seem like that's what he was doing. So I got to go back to this guy and look more into what he was talking about.
He must know.
Yeah. Well, this is, I fully expected that I would go my whole life without ever knowing the answer to this.
I always thought I was right, Nick. And then you screwed it up today.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I didn't. This guy did.
It's his fault.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess this is something that could only happen in a huge city.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for a guy who cuts up women in the street. And they talked to a guy who chased his sister with a knife saying, I'm going to cut you up like these women in the street.
Kind of a telltale right there.
Yeah. And the only reason he kind of got away is because they forgot to write down his first name. And then when they went looking for someone, they interviewed another person.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Like,
it's crazy that it's that close to being real and they like completely missed it.
Right. And this happens all the time. Have you seen that show American Nightmare?
So
right now.
I think Jess watched it. Is that the horror?
Well,
it's kind of like I may be thinking of something different. It's like the best way I could put it. It's like this Scream, but like retro 1980s.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of something else now.
No, this is a documentary.
Oh no, then this is definitely not it. Yeah.
So imagine that, there's a young couple.
Yeah.
And people break into their house.
Yeah.
And they drug them. They kidnap the girl.
Yeah.
They put a tape square in the living room and hook up an IP camera in the corner. And they tell this guy, if you move from this square before 3 p.m. tomorrow, if you pick up your phone before 3 p.m. tomorrow, we're watching you on this camera and we're going to kill her.
Wow.
I don't know if you have to bleep that out or not. Anyway,
we can't get in any more trouble, Nick.
That's true. So anyway, and you'll see why I'm bringing this up, because the police really kind of botched the Jack the Ripper case on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
At any time, they could have examined this shawl. But so in this one, the guy, he waits as long as he can, but he's like, I've got a call. So he calls the cops and they're like, you're just calling us now? So they come over and he shows them the camera. He shows them the square on the thing. He's got drugs in his system. But it's such a tale that they're not used to, because, people unalive people all the time and then they report it themselves, but much later after they've had time to think.
For sure.
So they zero in on him. They're not looking at anyone else. So they're telling him he's failed polygraphs and all this stuff like that, and telling him that they found his girlfriend's blood all over the bedroom, all pure lies. He passed the polygraph and there was no blood. They do press conferences saying how he's definitely the guilty party and they're going to prove it. And they're so sure that he did this that they put his phone on airplane mode and lock it up in the locker. So they're not getting any of any of the ransom requests from the kidnappers.
Yeah.
It's just like going to dead air, whatever it goes to when you're on airplane mode. So the kidnappers, who are real, are hearing all this and them saying like it's definitely this kid who did it, that kind of thing. It's the boyfriend. They're getting completely ignored for ransom. So they call a reporter and send them as proof a recording of the girl saying that she's been kidnapped and so far she's being treated good, but they need to take this seriously. So the reporter takes it to the police office. They've already done their press conferences saying this guy's definitely done it. We're not looking at anyone else. They're like, yeah, we'll look into that. So now the police switch gears. They're like, she sounds too calm. This is definitely something
she must be on in and on two, Nick.
That's what they said.
Good God.
So they do another press conference saying, we don't know what the thing is, but we think it's some kind of scam that the boyfriend and the girlfriend are in on. She was too calm. They're trying to pull something off. Meanwhile, they don't switch his phone back on at all. Now, the kidnapper, he's like, oh, we're going to have to SA you and stuff like that. And we're going to record it. If you ever tell on us, we'll release it and that kind of thing. But other than that, they're treating her okay. Yeah. Other than that, that's a big thing. But,
a pretty big thing.
But they're getting completely ignored. Now, as far as they can tell, the reporters ignored them. And the cops are just off on another thing. So they're like, look, this isn't working out. We're not killers. So we are going to take you. We can't take you home, but we can take you to your dad's house, which is 400 miles away. They take her there, drop her off. She comes back. Now the police are absolutely certain that it was a scam that the two pulled up. So they're doing press conferences saying this couple has wasted the resources of the community. We're not going to stop till they're both in prison for whatever scam they just pulled. Like all this stuff. Meanwhile, the real criminals are out there. They could be coming back at any time.
Where's this from?
This is somewhere in the US. I think it was, let me get the exact location here.
Why is it every time
it's California. It's California.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Because I was looking up all these guys after, like, just seeing what it could have possibly, like, is this a real thing?
Why is it every time we cover one of these stories, Nick, the police is always so dumb?
Because I think there's a lot of that going on.
Circleville letters, like, the collar bomb story we covered.
So this guy, the lead investigator, says, oh, it's a Gone Girl scenario. Remember that movie that came out? Gone Girl, where a girl
it was started as a book.
Yeah. So they're saying, oh, it's just like that. And they're really after them. Now, the kidnappers, despite being horrible people, they contact, once again, the police and the news people saying, there is something seriously wrong with you. We are real and we did this. Like, leave these poor people alone. You're destroying their lives. Like, and the police are like, yeah, whatever.
That's these crazy.
Yeah, right? So the only way this got sorted out is the person did it again in another location, and the cops in that location followed up. They got his cell phone. They located the guy, and he failed to kidnap the person in that one. But they were going through his stuff, and in the trunk, they found his crime kit, and there was a thing that had blonde hair attached to it because it had stuck to it. And they're like, he's done this before. And they did testing, and they found out that it was that girl. So this other police department caught it, and they forced the original police department to cooperate with them. They still didn't want to at that point.
How sad is that?
Yeah. And all the people involved faced no repercussions.
That's crazy to me.
In fact, the head investigator was the head of the police union. And since that time, he's won Officer of the Year. He's been promoted, and he changed the level of the testing you had to get to become a sergeant and made himself sergeant.
Of course he did. I mean, why would that shock anybody, Nick? Honestly.
Yeah. It was the Vallejo Police Department.
Yeah. Vallejo Police Department, you're idiots.
Yeah.
Complete idiots.
So parallels to these two cases, the police, there's great police out there, but there's a lot of bad ones. And you know what they say? If you have 99 good police officers and you've got one bad one, you've got 100 bad police officers.
That is true.
Like same with doctors, like really critical positions, you've got to be good.
Well, and that's the thing. Whenever we look at these stories, a lot of times there is points where I go, well, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But I feel like whenever we talk about crime stuff, the police officers are always bumbling something up.
Like when we did, what was it? The Axeman.
Yes.
They were really messing a lot of that up. Now,
correct.
They didn't have the resources back then that they do now, but neither did the Jack the Ripper officers.
Correct.
But they had pencils. They could have wrote down his first name.
They could have, but listen, they decided not to. You know, somewhat, there's a cop in a story that I've got for you today, Nick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
A good one or a bad one?
Well, I'll let you determine this. It's it's kind of off to a degree. You know, it's not like the central point of this. And it's coming from my home state of Ohio, Nick. The good old home state of Ohio. Ohio State Buckeyes, baby.
Well, I really hope this is a good one then, because I don't want bad cops there.
Well, you know, listen. A lot of the stories that we tell, you know, we've told a little bit of everything around here, Nick. We've told stories about UFOs and cryptids. And on my channel, coming up not this week, but the following week, I'm going to have the first story about a cryptid, and that is called the Mothman. Everyone knows the Mothman.
Yeah. He's just a little guy helping out.
Little guy, 6-7 foot tall, Nick.
Big guy helping out.
Big guy helping out. But you know, there's a few stories. One of the stories that does extremely well on our channel is a story about the London werewolf.
Right, right.
And people love that story on our podcast. It's one of our better performing videos, especially here lately. So there's a whole bunch of y'all that's living here in London, Ohio, that's going to be watching this video. I'm not sure.
You added a lot of gusto to that one. That was one of my favorites too.
Because it's close. It's close to where I live.
Yeah.
But this story is not about that. But we got another cryptid here in Ohio, Nick.
Okay.
So when we talk about strange creatures lurking in the woods and along the rivers, and if you remember, the London werewolf was near, there's like a swampy area kind of in London.
Yeah, a kind of a mysterious swampy area too.
Kind of, yes. Now, on this story, it's one of those stories that you would typically tell around a campfire. This is like down your kind of avenue, Nick, because you love those kind of stories where it goes along. But the story comes from police officers that were on duty, which I find interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
It's the story of the Loveland Frogman. Have you ever heard of this, Nick?
I can safely say that I have not heard about this, but the title intrigues me.
So it was a cold March night in 1972. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning when Loveland, Ohio police officer Mark Matthews was making his usual rounds along Riverside Drive. It was quiet, just the sound of the tires rolling over the pavement and the distant rush of Little Miami River. And that's when he saw it, Nick. At first, when he was driving down the road, he thought it was like a wounded animal that was crouched on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. But when his headlights went over it, the figure stood up.
Ooh, that's spooky.
Now, it wasn't a deer, wasn't a raccoon. When it stood up to be about 4 foot tall. It had leathery skin, had webbed hands, and a frog-like face. Now, it was wide. It had unblinking eyes that was catching the glare right off of the patrol car's lights. Now, before he could even reach it or even try to go up to it, it took off. So it was gone. I mean, that's the first thing I would think.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking.
Wasn't there a Frogman in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also? Wasn't he a bad guy?
Yeah. I don't know. They also teamed up with Battletoads. So.
Oh, you're right. They did.
And that might be what you're thinking about.
I think that is what I'm thinking about. But anyway, the police officer sees what could only be described as a 4 foot tall toad man or like a frog man. Now, kind of like with the Mothman, you tell that kind of story, and when there's just one person that has seen something, you go, it's their imagination, or
right.
Late nights, sometimes you get pareidoia, you think you see something, you don't really see it. Well, 2 weeks later, Officer Ray Shockey, he had his own encounter.
Oh, another officer.
Officer.
Wow.
Not very far from where Matthews had his sighting. So Shockey was driving along the deserted stretch of road when his headlights caught, you guessed it, another figure crouched down on the pavement. As he slowed down, he's trying to make some kind of sense. He's trying to understand what he was seeing. And just like that, just like with Matthews, the figure stood up on his hind 2 legs. Mm-hmm. And for just a moment, it was simply just staring right at him. Then, without any hesitation, this is the moment you've been waiting for, Nick.
Oh, boy.
It leapt over the guardrail and vanished down towards the water. Now, the interesting thing is the 2 officers' description was nearly identical. It was a bipedal amphibian-like being that could stand upright, with smooth leathery skin with webbed hands. But the story does not start with them at all. I'm telling you the most recent story.
Now, did they both see it at the same place just before you move on?
Very close. Very close. They was in proximity.
Yeah.
We're going to go back 17 years.
17 years
to 1955.
Wow. All right.
So a local businessman was driving along the same stretch of road. Now, this is near Little Miami River when he spotted 3 frog-like figures standing near the pond. He also described them as 4 foot tall, weighing somewhere between 50 to 75 pounds, with skin glistening in the moonlight. Like the officers, the businessman watched the creatures disappear into the darkness. Now, at the time, there was nobody that believed him.
Right. I can understand that.
Yeah, because they're like, man, this dude's drinking. Yeah. I guarantee that's what they thought.
In the very first of this episode, we talked about what was humor like in the 50s.
Right.
Not very good.
Not very good.
Everyone was straight-laced, say it as it is kind of thing. They probably wouldn't have liked hearing this.
Correct. Now, similar to like the Mothman, after the 1972 reports with the 2 trained law enforcement officers, they started going and trying to identify different type of wildlife, right? They did the same thing with the Mothman to distinguish anything that was impossible. But they determined that based on the description, there was no creature that is known of that stands almost 4 foot tall. They went back to the records from 1955 to find that one case.
Right.
And they determined this has to be what he saw.
Yeah, because that was almost the same place there too, right?
Correct.
What was it? Little something river?
So Little Miami River.
Little Miami River. Yeah.
Yep.
And there was 3 of them at the time. That's what's interesting.
3, which makes me think just because a police officer saw the same thing doesn't mean it was the same one.
Right. Exactly.
And it's always in that area.
Yeah. That could be generations of them later.
Oh, yeah. Now, cryptozoologists, they all went to Loveland, a whole bunch of them. They could never find the creature. They were scanning for footprints, signs of disturbances, anything to prove that, there's a possibility that this thing is real.
Yeah.
They couldn't find anything.
It's extra rough when you've got something like 4 foot tall.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably very light because they're not probably going to leave much.
Well, it's webbed feet too. Think about it.
That's like a snowshoe.
Like a snowshoe.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing, and I didn't know this, is apparently that legend lives on. So it's like the Mothman in Point Pleasant. To this day, if you go into Loveland, the Loveland Frogmen, they're still talked about to this day. And I had no clue, 0 clue.
Yeah, I've never heard this.
I had never heard of it either. But apparently it's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, like, we just got done riffing on, like, there being bad cops and stuff like that. But 2 cops reporting a similar thing unrelated without probably knowing the past, that's unlikely.
Very unlikely. So I'm going to say they're good cops. I don't know, Nick. They could have made all this up. I have no way of proving it.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't help them, I'm sure, to make up something like that. They probably got made awful fun of.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, let's think about it. We probably would have made fun of them too, Nick.
Right. Well, come around promotion time, they're going to be like, well, should we give this promotion to Jones and Stevens or just random names? I forget their names now. And they're like, nah, those are the guys that are seeing Frogmen. Man, we can't promote them.
Frogmen, doggone crazy Frogmen's going on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll pass them by this year.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so there's not like, well, obviously, since no one knows the story, they weren't going to get rich off of it.
Right.
So I don't see any benefit for them doing this whatsoever.
No. I thought it was interesting, though. I do have one more story to close us out here, Nick.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to see if you know this.
All right. I usually don't.
When I talk about Sir Isaac Newton.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Yeah. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The apple.
Yeah. I think that's what most people would say.
Right.
But I would also say he's a very smart man.
Yeah. I think no one would disagree with that.
When it comes to science and mathematics, he was pretty up there. What if I told you, Nick, that the man that we talk about that has to do with law of motion, that has to do with gravity, he was also obsessed with prophecy?
I did not know that, but I think for his time, that would have been pretty common, actually.
You're probably right. Now, I think most of us, self-included, I think about the science part of it. Like, though prophecy was a big thing back then, I don't think I'd be like, you know what? I bet he tried to tell the future.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could believe that.
So
Maybe he made something.
Correct, yeah. Well, they was digging through his private writings recently, and they found something entirely different than what they anticipated finding. In fact, I would even go as far as to say it was pretty strange.
Okay.
He had a prediction about the end of the world, Nick.
Oh, that's a big one.
Dum, dum, dum. I feel like that's where that music should be.
Yeah, you cue that music, future Bert.
Exactly. What we're going to do is we're going to say a prediction about the end of the world.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's so good. I like that, Nick. So according to him, the end date of the world.
Oh, is it soon?
The year 2060.
That's pretty soon.
Now, this isn't just speculation, by the way. Newton wrote it down. He would write a letter back in 1704. and above a series of very careful mathematical calculations, which is what we anticipate from Sir Isaac Newton.
Right.
Because he was a mathematician. He was a science man, a man of science.
Did he show his work? That's what I'm interested in.
Yes.
Oh, boy. That's not good.
Now, for him, and this is where I think a lot of prophecies are kind of unrealistic, unbelievable. He believed that there was an apocalypse that was coming.
Okay.
But not in the form of something coming from the sky, but from a prolific battle between the forces of good and evil.
Oh, really?
A war that is similar to like in the book of Revelations.
So was he a religious fellow as well?
You know, I don't know. He was a man of science.
Tell the story. I'll look it up. You could be both, though, to some degree, I think.
He could be. Now, for him, he was trying to calculate, okay, if I was to end the world based on mathematical calculations, what year would it be? And what he did was he treated prophecy kind of like an equation, is the best way to put it. He believed that there was certain time frames in scripture. Doesn't mean that he was a religious man, but he was looking through scripture, and practically the 1,260 years mentioned in the Bible held the key to unlocking the future. So the question is, where does he start? Well, the year 80 AD. To Newton, this was kind of the beginning of what he called the corruption of Christianity and the rise of the Holy Roman Empire.
That kind of fits in with what I'm going to tell you after.
Oh, there we go.
That I just looked up.
So he took the date, he added 1,260 years, and that's where he came to the year 2060.
So why did he add that particular number?
Well, the way that they've got it broke down here, because I'm kind of looking through it. He didn't predict the end of the world in the sense that the earth would cease to exist. Instead, he believed that 2060 would mark the end of this era, ushering in the second coming of Christ and a 1,000-year reign of peace. But first, there would be a war that scripture called the Battle of Armageddon. Newton wasn't alone in the belief. Many believed with the centuries had speculated about the ultimate battle between the divine and the earthly forces. But what makes this different and what makes it chilling is that the prediction didn't come from a preacher or a prophet. It came from one of the greatest scientific minds of human history. And
interject something there.
Yes.
Because I asked you earlier, was he religious?
A religious man.
So I just looked it up. Isaac Newton was a devout Christian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
However, through his theories and scientific discoveries, his beliefs started to unalign with the Anglican Church, and he was born into an Anglican family. So by his 30s, he was considered heretical.
Oh, wow.
Because he, through what you're basically talking about now, he became sort of like not favored by the church.
Goes to show. Maybe old Isaac started out as straight and narrow, Nick, and then them doggone religious folks got him, Nick.
Well, if he came up with these theories,
yep,
and he believed in them, and the Anglican Church didn't believe in him, that was risky behavior for him.
Oh yeah, that was a death sentence.
He must have been real certain, and they didn't like it. So
I'm looking at these calculations. I have no clue what none of this means.
I wouldn't either, I'm sure.
So we're just going to say, listen, he's a lot smarter than we are, Nick.
Yeah.
And
if anyone wants to explain it to us, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. But listen, you're 2060. Y'all better get it figured out for 2060 because this thing coming down, Nick.
Yeah. If you've got good credit by 2059, rack it up.
Rack it up, baby.
Rack it up, baby.
Don't even worry about paying that mug back.
That's right. You're off to the promised land.
That's right. Listen, this is like the worst financial advice I think we've ever gave, Nick.
I know. Someone in like 2061's going to be like, those bastards from Deceptive Reality.
I knew I shouldn't listen to them.
They ruined me. This is just like when I invested all that money in the Hawk Tua coin.
Oh my gosh. You talk about a doggone. That's a prison sentence coming on that bad boy.
I think it should be, but you know, since we've not talked about this at all, for anyone listening who's not aware, Haley Welch, the Hawk Tua girl from that meme, launched a meme coin and basically rug pulled it on people. They made millions of dollars, and a lot of people lost their life savings, which probably shouldn't invest in meme coins. But she was getting raked over the coals by people, and she said, well, anyway, I'm going to go to bed. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Essentially wasn't heard from for 2 months.
Did you see the interview that they've already taken down where she explained why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they
weren't supposed to launch that.
Well, it wasn't even that. When she said, well, anywho, I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's because her team sent her a text message and told her she had to get off the phone because she was incriminating herself.
Yeah. I think so. This guy, Doc Hollywood or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I think he's a real con artist. He's related to famous people, and he does this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But the interview was filmed with a couple famous crypto investigators.
Yeah.
FaZe Banks.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. And it was agreed that this wasn't going to be released until such and such a time, until they got to the bottom of things. Well, I think, allegedly, Doc Hollywood leaked it because it caused another spike and they rug pulled people again.
Well, yeah, they didn't. They clearly did. That was not a mistake. They did that preemptively.
Yeah, they had advertisements edited into it, so they knew that they were going to do this.
Wait, they did a freaking pre-sale.
Mm-hmm.
What cryptocurrency do you know has a pre-sale, Nick?
Right. Rug pull.
100% rug pull.
So, well, here's the question of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think she knew this was going to happen, or do you think she was played?
She's a pawn.
Yeah.
But just because you're a pawn.
Right. Doesn't mean you're not guilty.
Correct. 100%. It's like if me and you was to lead somebody into a bad financial decision.
Right.
And then later someone came back and said, man, the old Nick and Bert got us.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, well, you guys had no clue. They're going to say you had a platform and use that platform to make money off of X, Y, and Z people.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly you're criminal. And the problem was she was supposed to get 50%.
Right. Which her lawyer was claiming was not true before this.
Yeah, but it all came out. She accidentally leaked it. Not her, but her team accidentally leaked it.
No, she actually said it on that leaked podcast.
Correct. But before that, they had leaked it by mistake. Mm-hmm. Then she went and said it. That's why they can't do an interview, because every time they do it, they have to take it down because they incriminate themselves even further. Right. She's going to go to prison for that.
Yeah. And you know what? I bet she'll be the only one who does.
Oh, I'm sure.
I bet they won't catch these other guys.
No.
Like they've got, because they know what they're doing. They know how to run the scam. She's just the face on it.
Correct.
She's what they used to call a fall guy or a patsy.
Correct. It's like you and I, Nick. We talked about this early on when we started this podcast. We said we will never take a sponsor of somebody that we would not use their product ourselves.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. It's because we don't want to mislead somebody, even if, listen, I think that everyone in today's day and age knows if you watch something and you got a YouTuber or a podcaster going, man, I sure do love X, or what's that stupid game they all say they play? Shoot. What is that stupid game? They all play it. Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends. I hate that so much.
Everyone goes, yeah, if you get Raid Shadow Legends, you get blah, 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 blah. And I can't keep my hands off of it. And I play all of this and spit. You're a liar. Oh, you don't play it.
I never comment negatively on people's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If I don't like what they're doing, I just watch something else.
Yeah.
I had a YouTuber that I watched every time they put something out. they got into Raid Shadow Legends, and I said, look, I love your content, but this is the last one I'll ever see because you have essentially sold out and you're lying every time you do this.
What most people don't know, and I don't talk about this very often, when I was streaming, do you know one of the bigger people that came to me to do a sponsor spot?
Was it Raid Shadow Legends?
Yes. And they offered a decent amount of money. I was a no-name. In the grand scheme of things, I'm a no-name. I was pulling 20 to 30 viewers a night.
Yeah.
And they offered me a decent amount of money to do it.
They were getting in early.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing. Do you know what the requirements was for me to do a sponsor spot?
I think you told me, but run through it again.
Every single week for, I think it was 3 weeks, one day out of the week, I would have to stream for no less than 3 hours playing Raid Shadow Legends. Now, once I did, I think it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I can't remember. It didn't matter if I streamed anything else, but once a week on my channel for a minimum, they said minimum, for a minimum of 3 hours, I had to stream that game. Then, if the performance worked out well for those 3 weeks, then I would get an additional X amount of money for the next however many weeks it was. I can't remember what the second wave was, but it was a significantly higher number. Now, here's what's interesting. Not long after I got that, I don't even know if I should say this. I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
Not long after I got that offer from them, like less than a week later, I got another email, and I'm not going to say who the company is, who said, hey, we heard that you may have gotten an offer from Raid Shadow Legends.
Right.
We are a company that can boost your views during those streams if you split X amount of money that they give you from the 3 weeks. You'll get the second tier with us and then split it with us 50-50 on that, and we'll keep your numbers higher to get to the higher levels.
Now that's sketchy as heck.
Yes.
How would they have known?
No clue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have a good idea how they knew.
They
were one and the same.
I can only assume, but I don't know that. So I'm not putting that out there.
No. That's just my guess.
Now, here's what I said. And I think I told the people on my stream, listen, I was offered this. I'm not going to do it. And here's why. You know, if I'm playing this game, I have zero interest in this game. And I can't tell you how fun this is when I don't believe in it.
Right.
On top of that, it's just a money grab. It's not a free game. It is a free game, quote unquote. It's really not. It's a pay to play.
It's just to harvest whales.
Correct.
Is all it is.
So for me, I couldn't do that to people. I can't do it. And they offered me, for me and my size, a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a lot of people take it.
We're talking hundreds of dollars, not thousands. We're talking hundreds of dollars for a 3-week period.
Yeah. Now, you and I watch a lot of like film production and music and audio and stuff like that. And the sponsors that they get are like an audio technician might get a sponsor for a music library.
Right.
That I respect.
Yeah.
But if you get like a serious political broadcaster there and trying to sell me Raid Shadow Legends.
Right.
I'm like, come on. No.
It's like we talk about products all the time, Nick, and products that we like. I was just making fun of Nick when we came on. I had a Boom Boom stick. And the Boom Boom, I've fallen in love with these Boom Boom sticks, as dumb as this is. But like, this is a product that I use, and it's just, you smell it and you go, man, it opens up my cavities. But the reason I like this is not because, by the way, not a sponsored segment, but I enjoy it because it actually opens me up.
If we were using something already, not to mention being opened up like that helps with the recording.
100%.
Another interesting thing I just looked up, by the way, pop quiz.
Yeah.
You've heard of Howie Mandel?
Yeah.
You know what Howie Mandel's son-in-law does for a living?
I don't.
Scams people with Hawk Tuah coins. That's who Doc Hollywood is. Howie Mandel's son-in-law. Yep.
Howie.
And he's done it before.
Howie, I'm disappointed in your son-in-law. Why are you allowing that, Howie?
Yeah. Don't let that kind of man to marry your daughter.
Exactly. Maybe he got scammed.
Maybe. Well, could be.
That's nutty.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I would love to pick up sponsors for things that we love.
Oh, heck yeah.
Like I would take a sponsorship from Boom Boom Stick.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would, but I'd be like, well, I can't say anything nice or anything about it because you won't sell it to me.
Maybe you'll have some Boom Boom Sticks when you come to America, Nick.
Heck yeah, I can't wait.
But we talked about them. We talked about scare letters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was last week.
It was, because I'm going to look into that and I think I might get it myself.
Like that's another thing that, or like Audible. I use Audible all the time.
I would do that for half price because that's one of my favorite things.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like when you think of it, like there's products we use every day. And if someone was paying me to promote things that I love, I would be totally down with that.
Yeah, really. I mean, if it's stuff you believe in, it's just going to make your ads better.
Correct. Because here's the thing, like I can't tell my viewers, hey, buy this Boom Boom Stick because Boom Boom gave me X amount of dollars. You got to buy this Boom Boom Stick. You're going to love it. But like, I think the people that watch us know, like, I like this product.
Yeah.
The Tropical is the best in my opinion, but
if they ever did this, you could just say, well, if you don't believe me that I use it, check out these 2 episodes before we were sponsored.
Correct. 100%.
Because you've mentioned them in 2 episodes now.
Did I mention them in last week's?
It might have been before, but I'm pretty sure you did, though.
I think we was talking about it before the podcast.
Yeah, we have a podcast before the podcast
and
a short one after the podcast.
We really do. We talk about a lot of stuff in the before the behind the scenes. Yeah, the pre-show. It's interesting. I don't know. But like little things like that, like it's things that I love, like things like, I'll be honest, I don't even have it yet, but I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
I've got that freaking limitless, pennant coming.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I know you've talked about previously.
I've never been more excited to get something in my entire life.
Well, hopefully it lives up to the hype.
I hope so, man. I really hope so. Because anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge component. I love AI.
Yeah.
Because it's changed my entire life with things that I get stuff done. But to have a pennant that is magnetic and you can click it on any article of clothing, or you could like me, I could put it on my chain.
Right.
And then like I typically do, tuck my chain inside my shirt. It listens to every single thing that you say. And then it kind of like gives you a synopsis of your day. It doesn't forget things. My understanding is it's automated. It can write emails in the way that now it's scary to some people. It's scary.
You're super scaring our segment of our listeners that are hardcore conspiracy theorists.
Very true.
Yeah, they're on their toes right now.
But like me, like I already use AI a lot in my job. Like if I'm writing emails, and honestly, most of the time I just write the email and then I put it through an AI and I go, hey, clean this up.
Yeah.
Because I think like everyone, when I'm passionate about something, I'll mention something, then move on to something else. And then I mention again, and then I move on to something else. And then I probably mention it a third time versus AI goes, okay, you already mentioned this 3 times. Let's leave it right here.
Yeah. I think that's a good use of AI too, because I don't think it should be used to do creation for you.
Oh yeah, it can't.
I think it should be used to refine things for you.
Correct.
Do the manual labor stuff. Leave the creation and the creative process to people.
Right. I hear it said all the time. And it, to a degree, it annoys me a little bit. Is people say, I won't use anything AI. because if I didn't create it, I don't want AI to get any credit for anything. And I said, like, here's a great example, right? If an author writes a book and then they run it through AI, they go, well, it's no longer that author. Right. Okay. Well, last time I checked, an author has what? A proofreader, do they not?
An editor too.
And an editor, right?
Yeah.
Well, then out of curiosity, they're going to be fallible versus an AI that's probably a little less fallible. So is it fair to say that you'd rather run it through an editor or a proofreader and or both?
I'd say both.
And then on top of that, not be as successful potentially as AI that can do it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
So you say AI didn't do anything.
Yeah. Well, like the original argument people have, well, AI did this and now it's the AI's thing. Well, is it now the editor's book?
Right. Correct.
Like if don't let it do the fun creative work for you.
Right.
If it's just refining it, if it's editing it, whatever, that's good use. That's not ripping off anyone. That's not doing anything like that. In fact, if I wrote a book, I'd like to put it through AI and then send it to the editor.
You know what I've done with some stuff here lately, Nick? A lot of times when I'm creating an episode for like my podcast, which is more like a storytelling now versus what we do, I'll run it through there and I say, if a listener listened to this, and I've got a script, right?
Yeah.
If a listener listened to this, what questions may they have? And then when it spits out X, Y, and Z, I go, you know what? I probably should include a little segment on that.
Yeah. And you're still creating that.
You're still creating it.
Right.
Now, it's different if you say AI, hey, write this entire thing. And more likely than anything, it's going to hallucinate and you're going to get a lot of wrong information in there anyway. But, it's a tool, right? It's like a screwdriver. It's like a drill. You can't have it do everything.
Right.
But you can use it as a tool to get from point A to point B.
Yeah. And I think those people who are saying, write me this whole thing.
Yeah.
They're the ones who's ruining it for everyone, really.
Correct.
So.
And you see it. Like I can watch something and go, AI wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to spot. And there's a lot of it going on.
Very easy. And a lot of it, I hate to say it, a lot of it's happening on YouTube. I'm watching a lot. In fact, there's content creators I used to watch that I now know their content is AI.
Well, when we were sort of looking through YouTube earlier, I saw a lot of the History Channel images look to be AI images.
Yes.
They can afford to pay artists. They have no excuse to be doing that.
Correct.
Will they be penalized? I doubt it.
I highly doubt it. But here's the thing. AI can generally, and I hate to say this, and listen, I know I'm going to tick some artists off.
Right.
When I've paid artists before to do stuff that I need done, three things generally happen.
Right.
One, perfect process. Everything's good. I love what comes out. And I go, that's dead on. Two, you and I dealt with this. Yeah. When deceptive reality first came into being, we paid somebody to do our music.
Yep.
What did they do?
Very short clip.
Correct. They ripped off someone else's song without us knowing it.
And then we got penalized for that.
We got penalized for it.
Yeah. And they weren't an AI. They were a person who did this.
This was a person. This was before AI was even really in the facets of everything.
Yeah. I don't think you could sign up for any AI music stuff at that time.
No. And then the third thing is they get mad because you want to make changes, or you can only get so many changes and you still don't get the product you want.
The thing that kind of grinded my gears on that thing is that we liked what they did.
Yes.
And we were like really talking it up and stuff like that.
Yes.
Didn't realize that it probably took them 30 seconds.
Correct.
Because they just took someone else's work.
Now, with that,
the thing that sucked. With
that said, our new deceptive reality theme, which we've had now for over a year, that guy, all-star.
Yeah, and we've never had a claim against us or anything like that for this.
And
it sounds much better.
And in fact, he gave us how he created everything. You can see the actual stems.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, the stems is a different instrumentation that he created across the entire format. But our theme song, I mean, that stuff's not cheap. Like, I paid a decent amount the first time.
Yeah.
I paid a decent amount the second time. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, I could probably create something better with AI, to not necessarily than what we have now, but definitely something better than the first.
Yeah,
and
which
for a
we thought
fraction
was
of the
good.
cost. Oh, we thought it was amazing.
And someone else did too when they wrote it.
Right, exactly. And here's the funny part. This is how ignorant I can be. We get our first claim. I'm like, man, what are these people trying to steal our music for? And I filed a counterclaim and they released the music. I'm like, okay, well, there you go.
Okay.
And then it happened again.
Yeah.
I hit up Nick and I go, man, they did it again. Like, this is going to happen every single week.
Yeah. It's weird that they let it go the first time.
The second time they let it go.
Right.
The third time it happened, they didn't let it go.
Yeah. Plus, we wouldn't want to keep doing that every.
No. So I hit up Nick and I said, listen to the song. And the beginning did not sound like our song, but the middle did. And I go, oh, okay, that's a problem.
Yeah. But I mean, they're running that scam on a lot of people. A lot of people don't get it out there enough for the claims to get, but there is companies that sole purpose is to falsely copyright claim things.
For sure. And that's exactly what I thought was happening.
Because if you don't notice, they can make a lot of money off of you if you become a bigger channel and monetize.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, they get all the money up front and then you got to fight to get your money back. That's the problem.
Yep, exactly.
It's sad. Well, what says you out in the world of podcasts? What do you think of our stories today? Is there something that we didn't know, or is there something that we should have covered that we did not cover? We'd definitely love to know in the comments down below. Also, if you've not subscribed, what are you waiting on? Hit the thumbs up button and turn on your notification bells. Mm-hmm. Until we see y'all on the next podcast, goodbye.
Ribbit. I mean, goodbye.
Loveland Fishman.
Frogman,
sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
Dang, I screwed him up. Loveland's all kinds of ticked off right now.